All right, guys, very excited here for a special video on Joel the Nose. This is Josh Meyer, for those of you who don't recognize, one of the just true, really nice guys and legends, I think, in the niche perfume world. And you know, as far as American niche perfumery goes, he's the man. He was here last night in Miami at Osme Perfumery doing an event talking about his newest perfume, which is In Love with Everything. And so we've been hanging out here today in Miami. He's here for a few days, enjoying his time, and we are just going to do a quick video talking about this and, you know, just going over a few things that perfume nerds like to talk about, right?
Yeah.
So stay tuned. It's coming up next. Welcome back, everybody, to Joel the Nose. And as you could see from the intro, I'm here with Josh Meyer. We're just hanging out in Miami. One of the things we mentioned before, what's really cool, a couple years ago, we had no idea who each other were. But because of this crazy little perfume passion that we have, he's based in Oregon. I'm based in Miami, you know, completely across the country, two different areas. And we're now hanging out like old buds and having a great time, huh?
It's awesome. It's the best.
It is, yeah. This is, you know, one of the things I really love about the fragrance community is, you know, you saw it last night. It's his first time to Miami, right?
Yeah, first time.
And just the community that is around Osme and how we all just, you know, had a great time. I mean, I don't know. I think it was like almost 4 hours we were there.
Crazy fun time. Yeah. It was a blast.
And you got to meet and see a lot of your fans, and
Yeah.
people were, of course, buying lots of perfumes from Imaginary Authors, which is awesome. And you know, real quick. So, what are you know, first time in Miami? Thoughts? Like,
It is crazy. It is so much different than Oregon. I love it. Yeah, it's a treat. It's a blast. I'm glad I've got you to help you show me around, and yeah, it's really cool.
yeah, we're gonna go grab a bite to eat after this. I'm gonna take them to a local place, and I think you brought that Oregon rainy weather though with you. Literally, this entire day, Sunday, we're filming this, rained the entire day. I haven't seen a day like this. I can't remember. So thanks for bringing that.
Yeah, I've seen a million of them.
Yeah. So, well, anyways, let's you know, talk about this. You know, for those of you who unfortunately did not get to be at the event last night at Osme, Josh, you know, talked a little bit about not only his brand and you know what he does at Imaginary Authors. For those of you again who don't know, he is the founder, the perfumer, the creative director. I mean, basically, you know, and just, you know, wears a million different hats for this fragrance brand, and which is one of my favorites. I talk about Imaginary Authors all the time for those of you who watch my channel.
Thank you.
And I love that, you know, you're not only your price point, but the fact this is true American niche perfumery, when there's just not a lot of that out there. So
Yeah.
It was great hearing Josh though firsthand talk about his brand, and I thought it was really cool. If you want to talk a little bit about, this is the newest fragrance, and I'm gonna bring it up real quick so you guys can see the bottle. And go. All right. So this is In Love with Everything. You can see it's got this kind of neon 80s Miami feel. And so I guess I'll just start right into it. How did this perfume come about?
Yeah. It's sort of been this trilogy of fun perfumes. Like when I first started making perfume, all I wanted to make were these really resinous, rich, thick, layered, I mean, examples are Memoirs of a Trespasser, Cape Heartache, even Yesterday Haze, which is a kind of a fig perfume, is very textural, has a lot of this dusty, cloudy, and those were just what I was drawn to. And then over the last couple of years, I've been really engaged with the other side of that experience, which is bright, fun, energetic. And this is like the pinnacle of of that feeling. This is like, I can't imagine a perfume being more fun than this. In that trilogy, of course, would be Fox in the Flower Bed, which is really light and bright. It sort of has this, you know, this indolic jasmine. And then Sundrunk, which is just a day at the beach. And this is all about Miami and the neon lights that palm trees. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's as based in '80s as it is. It's not a perfume that's based on '80s perfumes.
Yeah.
It's like a very kind of exceptionally modern perfume that we use the story. I mean, so the perfume in this case comes before the story, and this perfume was based on 3 primary components, which was a raspberry, like a natural raspberry material. That's blended with ethyl maltol. And ethyl maltol is in a gazillion perfumes, famously overdosed in Angel, but you would recognize it in so many different fragrances. It's very inexpensive. It's definitely used a lot in Baccarat Rouge. And so adding ethyl maltol to this raspberry material gives this juicy fruit, this neon vibe, which I just could not get enough of. However, the problem with this raspberry material is that as it dries down, it gets very bitter. And so blending the ethyl maltol with the raspberry and then adding methylaetone helped kind of give it more longevity and then take away that bitterness in the, as it sits on the skin.
And I think the methylaetone. So what type of note is that?
Thank you. Yeah, the methylaetone is also something that almost anyone that has smelled a bunch of perfumes is going to recognize, and it's often used in marine notes.
Okay, yeah.
It's a fatty coconut material. It's you can definitely smell it. You can definitely smell it in gourmands. But it's that with the ethyl maltol and the raspberry. Ethyl maltol is one of those materials that's used so frequently that I didn't want to use it in anything that I'd made up until just recently. And in this one, it's so fun because it disappears. Like, I don't think that anyone that smells this is going to say, "Oh, this is overdosed with that particular material."
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to smelling materials now. For those of you who know, I've been kind of working on my own, and poor Josh had to suffer and smell a bunch of my fragrances.
I loved it. It
Yeah.
was so good. So much fun talking about the materials.
Yeah,
He's doing a killer job.
And I mean, we were really nerding out because, just talking about the notes, and that's what we've had such a great time learning, again, about the notes. And I love hearing talking about the aroma chemicals and how they're, like you said, this
methylaetone,
yeah. How it gives this kind of blue or marine kind of quality, but it's coconut, it's fatty. I mean, These are all such really fun, things. And I did not pick it up, but I do pick that up in a lot of, like you said, those kind of marine type fragrances.
Yeah.
And I just sprayed this on the skin for you guys who didn't see it. And this is, this projects. For me, like when you were spraying it over there, it was like, it was like this. This was like, I love it. I mean, that is.
It has some legs. Yeah.
And it's like you said, that neon quality. It is. It's hard to describe, but like somehow you made something that smells neon. And so one of the things I really love about your brand is obviously it's imaginary authors. Everything's based on an imaginary story. This one also, but you always have one note that is some type of mythical made up note. So what is that note here?
In this one, it's stardust. There's all sorts of fruit. There's again, this is very textured with the neon component, but it's very thick as you kind of and that's a lot of the fruit. So there's passion fruit. There's a tropical punch, which isn't an essential oil, obviously, but it's this concept of all these fruits together. And then the stardust is just kind of Miami, David Bowie, 80s, and again something more textural. I think it's important to note in this perfume how did we already talk about how we did the story first?
You talked about. You talked about how you had. Actually, we didn't get into that really detail. You talked about how you had this obviously raspberry note that you really wanted to work with. So this was another really cool thing that he talked about last night at Osme, which I never knew. That typically, right, you have the perfume that you're working on first, not the story. So you don't create a story in your mind and say, okay, now I'm going to go create a fragrance to meet
Yeah,
that. It's
yeah.
the other way around, and that's what happened here, right?
Right, right. So I work with Shad, who does all the design. In this particular case, I had this raspberry material that I was really excited about, and he showed me an image of a palm tree, like a neon palm tree, in the background of some other stuff we were working on, and it just took off immediately. So it was this spark that I was like, that gave me this idea to work with the methyl laetone, and then after we created the perfume, then in this particular case, Ashad came back with "In Love with Everything," the title of the perfume, the next day. And a lot of times we'll go through 50 of them, and he'll send over batches of lots of different names to consider and talk about and adjust. And in this case, it was so quick, so fast, so perfect right out of the gate. There's so much joy in the perfume and the vibe and the tone. I'm like still I love it. I loved it. Yeah.
And you know what I love about it is that this, you got very specific, like with your story. I mean, this is not like, you know, it could have easily been butchered by someone from Oregon trying to talk about Miami, right? I'm a Miami native, and so I have a certain, like, I'm sure you have of pride in your area, but how you develop the story, and it's so specific. It's pre-Miami Vice, which is like, Miami Vice, for those you don't know, came out in 1984. So this is like right before that, and you nailed all of that. So I love the details.
Yeah.
So when those details of the story are so great, you know that the perfume obviously is going to be great.
I mean that's straight from Miami himself.
Yeah.
And that's credit to Ashad. He killed it with this one.
You guys, you obviously make a great team, right? I mean,
It's the best. It's so much fun. Yeah, it's like a joy in life for sure.
yeah, that makes everything so much better. And so that's basically the case then with all your fragrances. You have an idea. In this case, it was raspberry. Then you had this idea of the palm tree, right? But you didn't know when you had the palm tree. Did you immediately know Miami, or did that more develop?
Yeah. That came kind of after the perfume had been formalized.
So it could have been, at that point, it could have been a tropical city almost anywhere, right?
I mean, it happened pretty quick. Like the concept of the fragrance and the palm trees, and we knew like we wanted Blondie to be a big vibe with this whole experience. So Blondie and 80s, like I knew it was 80s pretty quick, but then it just kind of came together. Like clearly it was like the neon doesn't ring true for most of the country, but neon in Miami is a big deal.
Yeah, it's definitely, that kind of neon, the pink, the blues. I mean, that's, very kind of iconic images of Miami. So really, this is one of these fragrances that, and as great as it is on paper, you got to get it on your skin. Like I have it here on the paper, and you smell it. It smells, like I said, this very intense kind of raspberry fruity, it's almost neon, but then when you put it on the skin, it like dances.
Yeah.
This is it. I mean, it dances almost like it's a good image. I think with this, roller skating dancer, something almost out of Boogie Nights or something. But it wow, really just like I said, just projects and dances off the skin. And I also like the comparison to Sun Drunk. For those of you who haven't tried that one, that is like you said, it's like the beach or a pool in a bottle, like sitting. It's got this kind of like orange soda, creamsicle vibe, beach vibe. It's fun. It's just fun. Yeah. And this is another one that kind of just fits into. This is a fun fragrance. I like that. How you've somehow created something that's just fun. And so do you see this being worn? Like, did you in your mind, like, where do you think people would this would be best enjoyed? Like, is it seasonal? Is it not seasonal? Is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think before I started making fragrances, I wasn't really excited about fruit perfumes. It wasn't until I sort of got deeper and found some of these materials that they became like a lot more interesting. I would wear this during a cold, rainy night out in Miami. I don't think I would wear it when it was snowing outside. I think it can easily be a date night perfume. I think it could be a work perfume. I think it could do a lot. I think it's like pretty versatile. But I also think I'm not maybe my own audience. I don't know how.
Yeah. And that's got to be an interesting, facet of being a perfumer and owner of a perfume company, when you create something, it's got to be almost like a song. You put it out there to the world, and you may have one interpretation of it. Is it? I mean,
Big time.
have your perfumes like this often gone in directions or been interpreted in ways that you just had almost that wasn't even what you were thinking?
I mean, my favorite example of that is with Cape Heartache, and some people think it only smells like strawberries, and some people don't smell any strawberry. And so, you know, like it's the best. I love it. I think I think there's definitely strawberry in it.
Yeah, and you know, I think just to kind of wrap it up, one of the things you talked about last night that I loved was you were not like a typical perfume guy, right? This is not. In fact, you were kind of like anti-perfume for like growing up. I mean, this was something that probably was a 180 for you, and I think this is a very interesting story to just kind of tell about how you got to this.
Yeah, I hated perfume most of my life. I always thought in high school, I mean, I went to high school in the 90s and always thought it was very conformist. So everybody was kind of wearing CK1 or you know, Aspen or Cool Water. And and then in college, it felt just like frat bro culture. It felt like everybody was wearing Le Male and I love Jean-Paul Gaultier now. He's one of my favorite perfumers. I have a bunch of his stuff, and he's extraordinary. But like at the time, seeing that anatomically correct Peck bottle on every, you know, in like frat bro dorms, was just not. It was not my vibe. So it wasn't until I found a bunch of niche lines that I was like, holy smokes, this is wildly different than anything I'd ever smelled before. And
you got introduced to it by someone who was basically teaching you about like straight razors, or
he helped me sharpen straight razors. I would buy them on eBay, ship them to him. His name is Henry, he lives in Boston, and then he would ship these packages back and always include like perfume samples. And it just
so basically, like, I mean, you were in this rabbit hole of shaving and blades, right? And then this guy who was helping you out would just kind of, you know, drop some samples of perfumes. And were they niche perfumes?
Always, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mostly like just Lucky Scent stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. At the time, you know, this was like, you know, 15 years ago now.
And that just changed everything. Like once you started smelling these, I mean.
Yeah, once I smelled a few and realized there was this world where the perfumes didn't smell like what I associated with perfume, I wanted to smell everything I could find that didn't have that quality to it. So, you know, I started finding lines like Montal, and Le Labo obviously had Patchouli 24, which blew my mind. Penhaligon's has this very simple lemon and pepper perfume called Blenheim Bouquet, which just smelled like pure arrogance, and smelling a vibe.
I love that description, pure arrogance.
Yeah, it was so pretentious. I loved it. I just thought it was extraordinary, and it had nothing to do with the notes of the perfume.
Yeah,
like it wasn't like because it was a lemon, or it was just these things coming together. It was so cool.
Fun little question. So when you're wearing perfume on a daily basis, do you exclusively wear your stuff, or do you wear other things, or are you wearing stuff that maybe you're trying? Like how does that kind of daily routine work for you?
Well, daily I go to a lab. So I have a nice lab in Portland in Southeast, and typically I'm like making stuff all the time. So I don't use almost anything scented. So everything in my entire life is unscented, except soaps. I love using soaps.
So that makes sense. You don't want it interfering, smells interfering with what you're creating.
Right. So in the case with In Love with Everything, I mean, we meaning me and everyone in my entire life was made to wear all the versions of me making this. And they were all really good. I mean, unlike most of my perfumes, which kind of feel like trying to find the best of this very small arc, all the components in this all smell good. So I made tons and tons of versions, and they all smelled great. So it was just trying to find the best of a very large arc.
So how long did that process take? Like from the time you started this to the time you were like, okay, this is the final version, it's ready.
I mean, it was at one point I just had to say, okay, this is the best of the best, and that was, we had kind of we meaning like my dining table.
Yeah.
It had a whole bunch of different, and it was sort of going through them daily and changing them out, saying, okay, here's one that has a little more fruit. Here's one that has a little bit more citrus. Here's one that has like an overdose of rose. And they all smelled good, but just trying to figure out which one was the epitome of this. I mean, they were very similar, so it was similar, but
very nuanced.
but very and just a joy all the time. Like, it was always so fun to go through it.
And are you typically, so do you know approximately how long that was from the time you kind of started to the time you actually said, okay, I'm ready to send this out to the world?
Probably 6 months.
Wow. That's a, think about people. I mean, that's, it's a labor of love. I mean, you're putting, like you said, in back and forth. And so when you're working on a fragrance like this, are you working on one at a time, or do you do working different, fragrances or projects?
Yeah, I have a handful of projects.
Okay.
I made 5 perfumes in between while I was also making this, and I think it helps tighten up the skill level to work on other things. You sort of see how other materials are being treated for other projects, and you get to learn about something that you hadn't learned before, and then you can apply it in a new way as if you're working constantly on lots of different things.
Yeah, that's that goes to the kind of practice makes perfect. I guess theoretical knowledge only goes so well. I mean, you could be a chemist, you could have all that, but until you kind of see how these things react. I mean, I'm sure when you first put it together, not knowing how it was going to turn out, and just in each bottle you start with, it's got to be. I mean, again, I've done it on a very limited basis, and I know and this is how it works for me also with painting sometimes. What I start with, so a lot, I consider my work more abstract. So I don't usually go for exact replicas of something, right? It's more like I have an idea, and it's the same with painting. And then I just start, and then it just, where I start often ends up completely different. I don't know if that, if you're more, when you're working, it's more linear, no, this is what I want and this is how I'm going, or do you find yourself going in multiple directions?
I love that. I think for me with perfume, it usually starts with a few materials, trying to figure out how these materials are going to come together to become something new that doesn't smell like something else. Yeah.
And I mean, you absolutely can say, I can say this with, such confidence. It's one of the reasons why I love, your brand is nothing smells like. I mean, it is all so unique.
Oh, thanks.
This is niche perfumery,
that means a lot,
just done so well. And it's one of the reasons why I pretty much only talk about niche perfumes, because this is, again, you could smell like every frat bro, you could smell like every dude in Miami who wears, Aventus or whatever, not knocking any of those perfumes, or Aqua de Jo, but this is, and to take an idea that you start with raspberry, and then next thing you know, you've got a pre-80s Miami Vice perfume, and you're in Miami, right? It's wild, right?
Yeah, it's really, really
I mean, you could have ended up anywhere, but I mean, it's just, I don't know.
Very, very cool. Yeah.
The circuitous route that started with the raspberry note.
Yeah.
That's what's awesome about perfume. And so I guess we'll kind of end it there. Josh, I really appreciate, thanks for doing the video and for hanging out. And guys, we're going to go grab dinner and hang out a lot more and just, talk about perfumes and whatever comes to our minds. But thank you guys for watching as always. I really appreciate everybody's support. Couldn't do these videos without it. You guys keep me going. And this was a really special video for me to meet.
Me too.
To meet Josh and to hang out and to find out what a really cool, genuine dude he is. And that just makes the perfumes even better. So if you don't own any of his stuff yet, you gotta try it. Get your hands on it. Get it at Osme, wherever you can. Go to his website and
sample first.
Sample. I always tell people, I'm not a blind guy, blind buy type person. Sample it. There are so many good ones. I will say, I'll just end it with this. My favorite of besides this one now, because I can honestly say anything Miami is I love. So this, the fact you captured that is, I just love it. But prior to this one, my favorite is Slow Explosions. And that is an interesting, it's like nothing I've ever smelled. I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite my personal favorites of the line.
Yeah,
I love it.
In fact, I'm gonna have to go back to Osme probably, or or go online because I'm almost out of my bottle. I didn't bring it with me here. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Again, I will be back soon with another video. And what can I say? Wear it wisely, guys.